Imagine dedicating 26 years of your life to someone, only to find out they've been betraying you with a younger man. I'm Kurt Randolph, and this is my story. When I discovered my wife's shoes affair, my world collapsed. But instead of crumbling, I devised a plan, a devastating, calculated revenge that would turn her life upside down. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a tale of justice, a raw, unfiltered look into the heart of a man scorned. Join me as I unravel the shocking details and reveal how I took control of my fate. She walked out the door. I knew this moment would come. It had been building for a long time. I saw the signs for months. First, she was distant, then moody, then unsure, and finally angry. Nothing I said or did seemed to make things better. During those months, there weren't many good times. The only times we enjoyed ourselves were when we were out with friends. Those moments let us forget our unhappy home life. My name is Kurt Randolph, and she is my wife, Sue. Well, she will be my wife for a little longer. I've already talked to a lawyer about divorce papers. 26 years of marriage is ending quietly, not with fireworks, but with sadness. I will call our son and daughters this weekend to tell them. I'm just not sure where we went wrong. For 26 years, our marriage was mostly good, not perfect, but good. Life was not easy, but we had a nice life. Our kids, Glenn, Julia, and Rachel, are all healthy and well-adjusted young adults. 2 of them are still in college, and 1 graduated 6 months ago. Maybe our problems started when our first child went to college. It affected Sue more than I realized. She changed a lot. Our love life was never perfect, but we enjoyed being close until about 3 years ago. Since then, no matter how much I tried to be close, it didn't work. Sue called it the change and said I had to deal with it, meaning being close to each other was no longer part of our life. This led to many arguments. Eventually, I just gave up and accepted it. Why would I want to be close to someone who didn't want me? A few months ago, she started to change again, but not for the better. Now she is leaving, and honestly, I don't feel much sadness. I know where she is going, to another man. She couldn't be close to me, but she spends hours with a guy 10 years younger than her. When I first noticed this change in her, I knew something was wrong. I cared, just not as much as I should have. I had to find out, so I asked around. I worked long hours at 3M in Aberdeen, South Dakota as a process engineer. It's a good job, even if it sometimes means working odd hours and being on call. If something breaks and the maintenance team can't fix it, I have to step in. Being on call has made it hard to take weekends off or go to my kids' soccer games or family dinners. They pay well, though, and even though Aberdeen is the 3rd largest city in South Dakota, it feels small and cozy. I prefer that over big city life. We lived in St. Paul, Minnesota for a few years. In this city, people know what's happening. If you ask around, someone always knows something. A week after I asked my best friend Paul about my wife, he came to me looking unhappy. "You were right, Kurt," he said. "What did you find out?" I asked. "She's been having lunch with a guy at least once a week. Carol, one of her coworkers, is my cousin. She told me it's been going on for about 3 months. He picks her up in the parking lot and they come back an hour later," Paul explained. "My wife Sue works at Mid-States Printing. She is an administrative assistant, which is a fancy term for secretary. She's been there for about 15 years, going back to work shortly after our youngest started preschool. Honestly, for a 48-year-old woman, Sue still looks good. She doesn't look her age. I guess that's why David Perkins, the guy I think is taking her attention, noticed her. He sells paper for a company called Heartland Paper in Sioux Falls. He visits Mid-States often. After Paul told me I did some digging, David is divorced and has 2 kids ages 7 and 10. From what I found out, he cheated on his wife 4 years ago. When she found out, she left him. It seems like he doesn't mind cheating with others, too. I wonder if Sue is the only one he's seeing. I hope so for her sake, but I doubt it. It doesn't really matter now. Sue left with a weak excuse about going on a spa weekend to clear her mind. Alone? That's funny. I know she's going to be with him. This isn't like the last time when she only spent a few hours with him 2 weeks ago. Carol told Paul, who then told me that Sue was leaving early, so I took the afternoon off too and followed her. She drove to the Holiday Inn, and guess who was there waiting for her? That's when I decided to call a divorce lawyer. I would get the papers while she was on her spa weekend. I just have to wait until the GPS tracker in her Yukon XL shows that it stops at the last place. Some people might say I should ask her about what's happening, but after 3 long years without any closeness, you start to wonder if it's worth it. It's not that you stop loving. You just think maybe you both would be happier with someone else or even on your own. For her sake, I hope she is happy. As for me, I've always been able to find joy in almost any situation. Why focus on the bad things in life when there is so much good around us each day? So I sit here with my phone, watching her journey as she heads toward an important meeting. Sioux. I feel excited and a bit nervous as I drive to Sioux Falls. I'm going to spend the next 2 nights with David, my friend. He really understands me. He listens without judging or trying to fix me or my problems. He doesn't ask anything of me, and because of that, what I give him feels like a gift. There are no pressures, no demands, and no complaints like I have with my husband, Kurt. Kurt just doesn't get it. When a woman goes through changes in her life, she often doesn't want the same thing she did when she was younger. What she needs is someone who will listen and love her for who she is. David has been that person for me for the last 3 months. We started having lunch together and talked a lot. I could share anything with him. He listens and makes me feel special, like I am more than just a mom or an assistant. 2 weeks ago, he asked if I could take an afternoon off for some fun. I knew what he meant. He had been hinting about wanting more for a while. He talked about how he loves to treat a woman well, to pay attention to her needs. It made me think that having a younger man interested in me was quite something. I agreed to take Thursday afternoon off. I had some extra time off I could use. He booked a room at the Holiday Inn. I was a bit anxious, but decided that this was a man who cared about me. I wanted to show him I cared too and thank him in a special way. On the way to the hotel, I stopped at a store. I needed to buy something to help me feel more comfortable. I knew my body wasn't responding as it used to. Kurt had tried to get me excited a couple of years ago, but it didn't work out, and it felt wrong to me. Kurt ended up taking long showers after that, just like our son did before college. When I arrived at the hotel, David welcomed me into the room, and we sat and chatted for a while. He complimented me by saying, "Sue, you always look great. You dress in a smart way that's both professional and attractive. I wonder how your boss gets any work done with you around." I felt shy and happy that he noticed how I looked. Then he leaned in and kissed me. It was a passionate kiss, much different from the goodbye kisses we shared after lunches. Our lips opened and we began to truly enjoy the moment together, feeling youthful and playful. "I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that." He looked down at me, smiled, and asked, "Are you ready for this position?" I nodded. It wasn't my favorite way, but Kurt liked it, so we did it sometimes. I got on my hands and knees on the bed, and he got behind me. I felt him get ready. Then he pushed in all the way. It surprised me. Luckily, I had enough moisture from the lotion, and other times we had been together. He moved in and out. I could feel him with every move. I started to feel good again, and I knew he could last long enough for me to enjoy it. After about 15 minutes, I felt myself get closer to the top. I had never been very loud, so I hid my face in the pillow and let him keep going. I felt my body tighten, then shake, and I let out a sound into the pillow. He kept moving, and after a couple more minutes, I felt him grow inside me as he came again. When that happened, it pushed me over the edge, too, and I let go at almost the same time. We lay there tired for about half an hour. I wanted to get home before Kurt, so I got up, took a quick shower, and got dressed. "Do you think we could go away for a weekend?" David asked me. "I can book a cozy place by the river near Sioux Falls. We can enjoy the view and each other again. The fall leaves are just starting to look nice." "That does sound nice, but what would I tell my husband?" I replied. "Tell him you're going for a relaxing weekend. You need some time for yourself. Would he really mind if you took a little break?" "I don't even know if he would notice," I said, thinking about how things had been between us lately. "Well, I'll plan it for 2 weeks from Friday. How does that sound?" "That sounds great, David. I love spending time with you," I said. "And you know I love spending time with you too," he replied. I left feeling excited about our plans in just a couple of weeks. I drove home and got there around my usual time, but of course Kurt was not there. He often worked late. I felt a bit guilty as I walked in. This was our shared home. I passed through the living room and saw our big family photo hanging above the mantel. Then I noticed our wedding photo nearby. I stopped to look at both pictures. "What have I done?" I thought to myself. I know Kurt and I haven't been getting along, but is that a good reason to act this way? I can't let him suspect anything. I will do everything like I normally do. I went to the bedroom, changed into jeans and a t-shirt, and put my clothes in the hamper. Then I went into the kitchen to start making dinner. I decided to make one of his favorite meals, stuffed pork chops and mashed potatoes. Kurt, you remember that day clearly? It was the end of our marriage. She was in the hotel room for over 3 hours. I knew what was happening inside, and it hurt me deeply. We hadn't been close for over 3 years. She wouldn't even kiss me anymore because it always leads to you wanting more. The most I got was a quick kiss on the lips, and there wasn't even a hug. After I saw her leave the hotel, I drove around aimlessly. I didn't want to go home. I was too upset to be around her. At 8:30, I pulled into our garage, turned off the car, and sat there for a minute. Just then, she opened the door from the kitchen as I was stepping out. "What took you so long?" "You just got here," she asked. Talking on the phone," I said. This was how the lies started. "I made dinner, but it's cold now." "I wish you would call when you're running late," she said with annoyance. "Sorry, something came up that I didn't expect. I might be working late a lot soon." That was true. I didn't want to be near her anymore. That was 2 weeks ago. Now she is leaving for a spa weekend. For the past 2 weeks, I've come home late every night. On weekends, I've kept myself busy with yard work and getting the house ready for winter. We were just living together as roommates. But that wouldn't last. As soon as she gets to her destination, I will call Tom Andrews, the sheriff. The good thing about living in a small town is that you know many people. Tom and Marcia were our friends, and we had been to each other's homes many times. A few days ago, I asked Tom if he could deliver the divorce papers to my wife. He was surprised until I told him the whole story. "I'm really sorry to hear this, Kurt. You and Sue have been together for a long time," he said. "Yeah, but we haven't been close in 3 years," I replied. 3 years? Wow. Now that you mention it, I noticed some tension when we went out together. He said, "Now she's spending time with someone else. Part of me wants to get back at her, but the other part says it's not worth it to waste my energy on someone who doesn't love me anymore." "I'm sorry to hear that, Kurt. So when do you want her served?" "Saturday will be the day. She leaves for her spa weekend on Friday. That night, I'll find out where she is staying. I'll track her Yukon's GPS to see where she goes. Sue, it's over a 3-hour drive from Aberdeen to Sioux Falls, where David has the bed and breakfast booked. I grabbed some fast food on the way. I got there a little after 9 o'clock, and David must have been waiting for me because he came out as soon as I pulled into the driveway. Knowing he was waiting for me made me feel happy inside. "I thought you wouldn't show up," he said. "I worried Kurt might say you couldn't have your spa weekend. He doesn't control me, and I wouldn't miss this for anything. I've been excited about it since we talked 2 weeks ago." "Well, they just began an ice cream social in the dining room." "Let's enjoy that first, and then we can get your bags," David suggested. "That sounds nice." This showed me that David wanted more than just a physical relationship, unlike Kurt. He didn't rush us to the room. After meeting the hosts and other guests, we enjoyed feeding each other ice cream topped with cherries and whipped cream. I noticed how much David wanted to be close to me during the gathering. The bed and breakfast was lovely, and the hosts and guests were friendly. Once we finished our ice cream, we took my bags to our room. It was probably the biggest room there with a view of the river. I imagined how beautiful it would look in the morning with all the colorful fall leaves. Kurt's shoes' GPS had stopped moving. I checked the address and found that it led to a bed and breakfast. Now I knew where to have the paper served. I called Tom. "How are you, Kurt? I'm feeling kind of numb right now. I doubt I'll sleep much tonight." "Maybe more than her, though," I said sadly. "Don't be too hard on yourself, Kurt. You're doing something about it." "It's best to try to forget it and let things run their course," Tom replied. 26 years, Tom. 26 years? Yeah, that's tough. "Are you sure you want me to serve these papers?" he asked. "Can't you find a way to work it out?" "Tom, it hasn't felt like we were a couple for years. This just makes it clear. I'm really sorry, Kurt. Thanks." I gave Tom the address of the B&B. He said he would serve the divorce papers tomorrow late morning after the drive. When my lawyer wrote the paperwork, I said I wanted it based on cheating. He told me that without proof, we might have to switch to irreconcilable differences. At least this way it would show in court that I tried to file under cheating. I said. I decided to wait until tomorrow to call the kids. I didn't want one of them warning their mom. Those calls would be the hardest. Sue's. I looked out the window. David came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. I could feel his excitement. I turned my head to look at him, and he kissed me warmly. I kissed him back as I turned around. My hands moved down his body. He wasn't wearing a shirt, and I could feel his skin. In fact, he was completely naked. While I gazed outside at the night, he had taken off his clothes. I pulled away from the kiss. "Let me get changed," I said. "Don't change. I like you just the way you are," he replied. "You're beautiful." "Oh, but I think you might prefer me in something different," I whispered. His eyes widened, and he kissed me more intensely. I pulled away and walked slowly to the bathroom, picking up my overnight bag on the way. I changed out of my clothes and took out some lotion, applying a little. Then I put on a red teddy. I opened the door and showed myself to him, letting him see how I looked. I could tell he wanted me. "You look amazing," he said. "I'm all yours," I replied as I walked over to him on the bed. Things moved quickly. He had me on the bed soon, and he couldn't wait to be with me. I really wanted this moment to last, but then he tensed and finished too soon. I felt disappointed. He rolled off and lay beside me. "Sorry I was so quick. Seeing you in that red teddy drove me wild. Next time will be better," he said, looking hopeful. I knew what he needed. To get him ready again, I would have to do something I wasn't excited about. I took his member in my mouth, trying to help him get ready. The taste wasn't great, but it was worth it to me. He lifted me and placed me on all fours, getting behind me. He started moving in and out, and I enjoyed every moment. My excitement built until I couldn't hold back a scream into the pillow. He was close too, and soon we were both spent. We lay on the bed, tired. "Could you get me a hand towel from the bathroom?" I asked. He looked confused. "You'd rather that than sleep on the wet spot." He seemed a bit annoyed, but still got up to grab a towel. I placed it between my legs and relaxed. Soon, we both drifted off to sleep. Kirti didn't sleep well that night. I probably got 2 hours at most. I kept thinking about Sue and that man. What went wrong in our marriage? When we were younger, we wanted to avoid work just to be together. We knew work was important, but we always wanted to be home with each other. When we had kids, our focus changed, but we were still a team. Now she had found someone else. Our life together was over. Soon we would be in court, each with our own lawyer, fighting for what we could from our past. As I lay in bed, I stared at the wall, lost in thought. I didn't even bother to get dressed last night. I should probably get up, take a shower, and put on something nice that doesn't look like I just woke up. Sue. I wake up feeling relaxed, with David behind me. I feel like I've slept for a long time. I glance at the clock. At 7:45, we need to get moving. Breakfast is a buffet from 7:30 to 9. "David, we need to get up. We have to clean up and get downstairs," I tell him. "Let's skip breakfast and keep going with what we started last night," he replies. "I need some food if we're going to do anything else today," I say playfully. "Then let's hurry." "I want more," he says, lying in bed. "I'll shower first," I reply. "That way I can get dressed nicely. We could shower together and save water," he suggests with a smile. "No, we need to focus on getting ready to join everyone downstairs for breakfast," I say. "All right, but then we should come back up for more fun," he says. "We'll see. I want to walk down to the river, and later today I hope to drive around and see the fall colors." "That sounds like a nice way to balance things out," he agrees. Wow, this guy is always wanting more, I think to myself. It makes me feel good that this younger man wants me. I jump in the shower, wash off from last night. When I finish, I put on a robe and head back to the bedroom. David is asleep again. "Come on, David, get in the shower so we can head downstairs before breakfast ends," I call out. He opens his eyes, stretches, and then gets up to shower. I start to dress in nice slacks and a blouse that shows a bit of my chest. I sweep my hair back into a ponytail. Kurt likes it when I do this. "Oh, Kurt," I whisper. "What happened to us? It feels like we haven't been close in years. It used to be just us against the world." I think about my life, remembering happy moments, our wedding, the birth of our 3 kids, vacations, graduations, and soon our son's wedding to a girl he's been with since college. The bathroom door opens, and I quickly wipe my eyes and fix my makeup as David gets dressed. I avoid looking at him. I don't want him to see my tears. "Are you ready to eat?" he asks. "Yes, I am," I reply softly. We walk down to the dining room and say hello to our hosts and other couples there. We load our plates with delicious food at the buffet. Everything looks so good that it's hard to hold back. But I know I need to be careful about what I eat. We sit and eat quietly. David tries to make small talk, but I don't say much back. I'm looking around the room. There's an older couple celebrating their 50th anniversary. Nearby, a young couple seems to be enjoying their first anniversary. Other couples here are of different ages. I notice that David and I are the only ones without wedding rings. I took mine off while we were driving here last night. I finished my meal quickly and turned to David. Can we go for a walk by the river now? I want to see the views and enjoy the colors. Sure, then this afternoon we'll drive through the countryside and find a late lunch somewhere, he replies. As we stroll along the riverbank, David takes my hand and gently rubs it with his thumb. It's so beautiful here, I say, mostly to the nature around us. Yes, it is, he answers, but you are even more beautiful. I smile. He always says nice things to me, especially since he started working as the sales rep in the Aberdeen area about 6 months ago. He makes me feel young and attractive again, even at 48. Let's go back to the room. I want to show you how much I appreciate this lovely weekend, I tell him. He beams at me with a big smile. Just then, I hear a knock at the door. I quickly grab my robe and peek outside. There's a man wearing a sheriff's uniform. I open the door a bit more and ask, "How can I help you?" Sue Randolph, the voice seems familiar. It's Tom Andrews, a friend of mine. I just don't often see him in his uniform. Tom, I say, my mind racing. What is he doing here? I'm here for work, he says. My heart drops. I remember all those TV shows where police inform family members about bad news. I interrupt and ask, is Kurt okay? No, Sue. He keeps talking, but all I can think about is Kurt being in trouble. I hear him say something about Kurt being hurt and unable to talk to me. So he's alive, I say, feeling a bit of hope. Yes, but he's not doing well. I cover my mouth to stop myself from panicking. The door opens slowly and Tom sees David lying on the bed. I feel embarrassment and fear wash over me. He hands me a piece of paper and says, "You've been served," while taking a picture with his phone. I'm confused. What does that mean? I ask as he walks away. I don't get it. What is happening? I say again, totally lost. Oh my God, I say, falling to the floor. Look at the bright side, Sue. Now we can go out and not hide, David says. Oh my God, I keep repeating. After a few minutes on the floor, I stand up and grab my phone. I try calling Kurt, but it goes straight to voicemail. Kurt, I just got a call from Tom. He told me I was right. Sue was with another guy who was naked on the bed. Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate this, I say in a daze. Are you going to be okay? He asks. I don't know, Tom, I reply. I'll call Marcia and have her come over to help you. He says, I don't need that. I just want to be alone. I tell him, thanks. I'll talk to you later. I hang up and turn off my phone. I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to think about my marriage and what comes next. Sue, I need to call someone, find out where Kurt is, I say, feeling frantic. He's not at a hospital, Sue, David replies, looking puzzled. You heard him. He said he's hurt and can't talk. I insist. That's not what he meant, Sue. He said his heart is broken and that he can't talk to you. I think he can talk. He just doesn't want to. What? Is that really what he said? Yes, Sue. Soon you will be free. I started thinking about my marriage and my future. It looked dark. I hurried to get dressed. What are you doing, David? I have to go. I need to talk to him. Didn't you say you feel more like roommates than a married couple? What's the point? He asked. I just have to talk to him, I replied firmly. What about the room? I have it for the weekend, he shot back. Well, you can enjoy it, I said as I grabbed my bag and went toward the door. Sue, he doesn't want to talk to you, he said. If that's the case, I guess I'll just talk and hope he listens, I said, closing the door. My mind was racing as I headed to my Yukon, the SUV Kurt bought for me. What will I say? I wondered as I got in and drove out of the parking lot. My phone rang. I looked at the caller ID and hoped it was Kurt, but it was David. Really? You left? Yes, I left. What about our weekend? What about all the fun we haven't had in years? You will have to figure that out yourself, I said and hung up. Men, I thought. All they want are their own needs. I'd been driving for half an hour, making 5 calls to Kurt's voicemail when my phone rang again. Kurt, I'm on my way home. Can we talk? Jerk. I heard before the line went dead. I looked at my phone. It wasn't Kurt. It was David. At that moment, I didn't care if he thought I was a jerk. Another half hour passed and 5 more calls went by when I saw police lights behind me. "Oh no," I said, noticing I was going 97 miles per hour. I wondered how much the ticket would be for speeding. When I stopped, the officer took his time approaching my car. He must be running my plates. Normally, I drive safely and haven't had a ticket in over 15 years. Maybe he'd let me go with a warning. As he came to my window, I rolled it down. I had my license and registration ready for him. "What's the hurry?" he asked. "I need to get home to my husband. There's been a misunderstanding and he won't answer my calls." He looked at me with concern. "Why won't he take your calls?" he asked while checking my license. "He's upset," I replied. While he stood there, I saw him glance at the manila envelope on my passenger seat. He pointed to it. "This seems a bit more serious than just a misunderstanding." I couldn't help but cry. "Where are you coming from?" he asked. "Sioux Falls," I said, sniffling. "That's far from Aberdeen. What were you doing there?" His voice made it clear he suspected something. "Being foolish," I said quietly. He handed me back my license and registration along with a ticket for speeding. "Try to keep it below the limit," he said. He walks back to his patrol car. "Ugh, all they want to do is annoy me," I say as I pull my Yukon back onto the road. I slowly speed up to 79 miles per hour and set the cruise control. I check my rearview mirror and see him follow me for about 5 miles. My heart races with each mile. For the next hour, I try calling Kurt many times. "Come on, Kurt, turn your phone back on," I yell in frustration. "Kurt, it's been about an hour and a half since I got the call from Tom." I am sitting in my chair and think it's time to call the kids. How do I tell them this news? I say to myself. When I turn on my phone, I see I have many voicemails from Sue. I don't want to listen to any of them. I decide to call Glenn, my oldest son, first. "Hi, Dad," he says when he answers his phone. "Hi, Glenn. How's the new job?" "It's great, Dad. I can't believe they pay me to design buildings. I love it." "That's wonderful. I hope you keep enjoying your job until you retire." "So why are you calling me?" he asks. "Well, son, I have some news to share. Are you okay, Dad?" "Physically, yes, but emotionally, I'm not." "What do you mean?" "Glenn, there's no easy way to say this. I'm getting a divorce from your mom." There is silence on the other end. After a minute, he says softly, "What did she do?" I can tell he already suspects something. She thinks spending time with someone else is more important than being with me? "Really? How long has this been going on?" he asks, shocked. "I'm not sure, but I think it's been a few months," I reply. "I'm sorry to hear that, Dad. Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you." "So what's next?" he asks. "I had her serve papers this morning. I am divorcing her." "You don't think you can fix this?" he asks. "Glenn, if Janie cheated on you, what would you do?" I ask. He thinks for a moment and finally says she'd be gone. "I would kick her out." Janie is Glenn's girlfriend. He told me he plans to ask her to marry him on New Year's Eve. He already has a ring saved up. I'm happy for them. Please don't tell your sisters. I want to tell them myself. I'll try to reach them tonight. I won't, Dad. I'll call you tonight to talk more. Thanks, Glenn. I appreciate your understanding. We'll get through this, Dad. Don't be angry with your mom. This is between her and me. She's still your mom. She will need your support. I don't know how much I can support her, Dad, he replies. I understand, but you have to try, I say. Okay, Dad. She's still my mom. I love her even if I don't like what she's done. I get it, Glenn. I still love her too, but I don't like her very much right now. I'm sorry, Dad. You don't deserve this. You take care, son. You too, Dad. Goodbye for now. See you, Dad. I hang up and sit there staring into space. I was deep in thought when my phone rang. I picked it up without really thinking. Hello? I said. There was a quiet pause for a moment. Then a voice said, Kurt? Oh, Kurt, thank you for answering. We need to talk about this. I hung up. It was Sue, and I didn't want to talk to her now. I turned my phone off and sat there looking at it. I knew I would have to talk to her later, but not right now. Sue. I got through to Kurt, but he hung up before I could say what I wanted. I was surprised he answered it all. I usually got his voicemail, so I didn't expect to talk to him. Now that I had his attention, I started to worry. What would I say? How could I explain what I did? I knew I could say I was sorry, but I needed to think of more. I decided to take some time to figure out what to say when we finally spoke. As I drove, I was lost in my thoughts. Suddenly, I heard a ding and wondered what it was. I looked around in the Yukon and then at the dashboard. The gas light was on. I had never seen that before. Kurt always filled my tank, so I never had to get gas myself. I didn't know how long I could drive before running out, so I quickly looked for a gas station. I found one that wasn't very well known, but it had gas, and that was all that mattered. I got out, grabbed my purse, and took out my debit card. I put the card in the machine, entered my PIN, and took the nozzle. I turned around to find the gas cap. "Oh no," I said. It was on the other side of the truck. I hung up the nozzle and got back in to turn the truck around. I had to put my debit card in again and pulled the nozzle back out. Then I couldn't open the gas tank door. I looked, but there was nothing to grab onto, and I didn't remember a button on the dashboard to help. I looked around, but no one else was getting gas to ask for help. I decided to go inside the gas station. There was a guy behind the counter watching TV. I could hear the crowd getting noisy. When I looked, I saw it was a Jerry Springer rerun. "Excuse me," I said. He glanced at me but barely took his eyes off the screen and said, "Can I help you? I can't get my gas cap open." He looked at my truck and asked, "How long have you been driving it?" "A couple of years, but my husband fills it up for me. Just push on the right edge of the door and it will pop open." Just then, the crowd on the TV got loud and sounded angry. The guy behind the counter looked at the TV and quietly said, "What a jerk." "What?" I asked. "He, not you, the girl on the show," he replied, pointing at the TV. I glanced over and read the caption on the bottom. It said, "I've cut my husband off, but not my boyfriend." I stood there watching as the woman said, "He is a good father and takes care of us, but he doesn't make me feel good anymore." I just stared. Then the worker said, "I can't believe her. How could she do that to him?" I felt like I should stick up for her. Maybe she just wants to feel beautiful. If her husband doesn't make her feel that way, she should just leave him. If I were him, I'd kick her out. I couldn't say anything. That was what Kurt was doing to me. I felt my face get hot. Then I turned and walked out to my car. I opened the gas cap, took the cap off, and put the nozzle in. I turned around to put my debit card in the machine. It didn't work. I went back inside and asked the worker why. "Let me try it here," he said. He tried it and said, "It won't work." "Do you have another card?" "Oh, no." I thought, did Kurt cancel my card? I pulled out my purse and gave him my MasterCard. Luckily, that one worked. "You're all set. I thought maybe your cards got canceled." He gave me a look like he thought they would be canceled soon. I filled up the tank and drove away, my mind racing with thoughts about what I had done. I tried calling Kurt again, but it went to voicemail. "Kurt." I didn't expect to hear Sue's voice when I answered the phone. I thought it was Glenn calling me back. What would I say to her when we finally talked? I wondered where she was calling from and checked her GPS. She was halfway back to Aberdeen. I didn't want to talk to her. I had to go somewhere else. I didn't want to be there when she got home. I went upstairs and packed a couple of bags. When I came back down to the living room, I saw the family picture on the mantel. It was taken when the kids were still little. Those were happier times. We didn't have a lot of money then, but we were happy raising our 3 kids. I looked at our wedding picture on the mantel. I just stared at it. She had ruined our family. I walked over, picked up the photo, and hit it with my fist. The glass broke and my knuckles started to bleed. I took off my wedding ring, put it on the mantel, and laid the photo face down on it. I looked around, then walked out to my car and left the door open. I drove away to spend the night in a hotel. After I checked in, I called Julia, my second child. "Hey, Jules," I said, using my nickname for her. "Hi, Dad. What's up?" "Do you have time to talk?" I asked. "Sure, Dad. This sounds serious." "It is, honey. Go ahead. I'm listening. Jules, your mother and I are having problems. Dad, you and Mom have had problems since before I went to college 2 years ago. What's wrong now?" "Well, you know we both love you and all the kids. But some things have happened that made us decide this. It's hard to say, but we're getting a divorce." "Dad, I hate to hear that, but honestly, it doesn't surprise me. Before I went to college, you two were fighting a lot. It seemed like you were never calm together. I don't know what happened, but you both felt different from the parents I knew. That was my sister, Jules, always noticing things. She could tell right away when Glenn or Rachel were worried, even before Sue and I saw it. It's not your fault, kids. It's between me and your mom. Have you thought about counseling? It might help. I think it's too late for that, honey. I said, I wish you'd try, Dad. I don't want to see either of you feeling alone. I'll think about it, I said, not sounding very certain. Really, Dad, please think about it. Talk to someone before you both give up. I'll think about it, I said more firmly. I've already talked to Glenn and told him. I'll call Rachel later. Don't worry, Jules, I'll keep you in the loop. Thanks, Dad, she said, her voice shaking. I could tell she was close to tears. I'll let you go. I love you. Remember that. We both love you. Now I was getting teary-eyed, too. Love you too, Dad. I hung up the phone and switched it off. I couldn't talk anymore. I was choking up and starting to cry. Why is she doing this to us? I said out loud. I sat on the bed in the hotel room crying for about 10 minutes. I cried for everything I felt was fading away after 26 years. Sue. I drove into the driveway and saw that Kurt's car was missing. Deep down, I already knew it wouldn't be there. I got out and walked to the front door. I didn't need my key. The door opened easily. That was strange. Kurt must still be home. Maybe his car is in the garage. I walked in and called out his name softly. No response. He had to be there. He never leaves the door unlocked. The house felt too quiet. I looked around and saw nothing really changed. I noticed a family picture above the fireplace, a reminder of happier times. Then I saw our wedding picture face down on the mantel. I walked over and picked it up. The glass was broken, scattered on the mantel, and I saw Kurt's wedding ring among the shards. Oh my God, what have I done? Kurt, after I calmed down, I turned my phone back on to call Rachel, my little girl. Hey, Dad, I tried calling you, but it went to voicemail. I couldn't leave a message. It's full. Hi, Rachel. What did you want to talk about? Dad, Julia called me. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to ask her not to call you. I wanted you to hear it from me first. What did she tell you? You're getting a divorce, right? Yes, I have filed, I replied. Well, I'm not surprised, she said. Huh? I was confused. Dad, you and Mom have been fighting for a couple of years. Even about a year and a half ago, you both just stopped talking. All you did was talk about bills, chores, and weekend plans. I needed a moment to process. My youngest daughter had noticed a long time ago that we weren't acting like a married couple. It wasn't a shock to her that we were getting a divorce. She didn't even ask why or why now. Wow, I guess I didn't even see that. I said, Dad, we know you both care about us, but I'm not sure if you care about each other. If you do, you haven't shown it. You have to do what makes you happy. I wouldn't want you to stay in a marriage without love just because of the kids. We're all adults now. Rachel, you always tell it straight. Thank you. You've made this decision easier for me. I love you. I love you too, Dad. I'll support you no matter what. I'll always be here for you. You're my dad. I felt tears coming. I need to go. I said, I'll call you tomorrow. I hung up and turned my phone off. Now I really didn't want to talk to anyone. Sue. My phone rang. I looked and saw Julia was calling me. How would I talk to her? What would I say? After the third ring, I picked up. Hi, Julia. How are you? How are you doing? Is the better question? Fine. Why? I asked, hoping Kurt hadn't talked to the kids. Dad called me, she said. What did he say? I asked, worried about what she knew. I hoped she didn't know anything. She told me you two are getting a divorce. I gasped. We're not getting a divorce. It's just a misunderstanding. Well, it sounded serious when I talked to him, she replied. We'll get through this, I told her, trying to believe it myself. Rachel said he already filed, she said. Yeah, I got the papers this morning, I said quietly. I remember there was a lot of tension before I went to college. Rachel said after I left, you two stopped fighting and hardly talked. Had it really taken that long? After all the arguments and trying to avoid each other, it actually felt nice to not fight anymore. We just focused on our daily tasks. I think you and Dad should go to counseling. That might help you fix things, she suggested. That sounds good. I'll talk to him about it if I can ever reach him, I said. What do you mean? I keep trying to call him, but he won't answer. I'm home now and he's not here. Do you know where he went? Did he say anything when you talked to him? No, Mom. I thought he was home with you. No, he left. If I know your father, he's gone somewhere that I can't find him. I started thinking about where he might be, a hotel or a friend's house. I should see if he took any clothes with him. I walked up to our room and saw open doors and drawers. Julia, I need to try to find your father. I'll call you if I find him. If you hear from him, please tell him to call me. Sure, Mom. I'll call you tomorrow unless I hear from him first. Thanks, Julia. I love you. I know, Mom. I love you too. Kurt, I wasn't very hungry, but I hadn't eaten all day, so I ordered a pizza. I thought about what Rachel had said. We hadn't really been close for the last 3 years, thanks to menopause. Why didn't she try hormone replacement therapy? It might have helped a lot. That's when all the problems started. Her doctor said it could help, but she didn't want to take any medicine. After Rachel was born, I had to use condoms because she didn't want to get pregnant and didn't want to use birth control. I didn't mind not using them while we were trying to have kids, so I chose to get a vasectomy instead. When the pizza arrived, I sat on the bed watching TV and eating. There isn't much good on Saturday nights. My mind wasn't focused. The TV was just noise. Suey turned on the TV, but nothing could take my mind off what I was feeling. My thoughts were racing, and the TV just faded into the background. Looking at the empty closet and drawers hit hard. You would think getting divorce papers would feel strong, but seeing my husband's things gone made it real. I couldn't just talk my way out of this. My marriage might really be over. I decided I wouldn't deal with those empty spaces tonight. I would sleep in one of the kids' rooms. Oh my God, I need to call Glenn and Rachel. Maybe they can help me talk to Kurt. Maybe they can even suggest counseling. I grabbed the phone and called Glenn. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. I heard, "Glenn, it's your mom. You need to talk to her." It was Janie, Glenn's girlfriend, who would soon be his wife. He had told us he planned to ask her to marry him on New Year's. I don't want to talk to her. I heard Glenn say in the background, "Glenn, take the phone. You need to talk to her," Janie said. Then she turned back to me. "He'll be right with you, Mom." Well, I guess that answers one of my questions. Kurt must have told Glenn why he was leaving me. "Mom," he said without any feeling. "Oh, Glenn, please help me talk to your dad," I said. "I don't even want to talk to you." "Why would Dad want to?" he replied. Oh my God, this might ruin my bond with my son and my husband, I thought. "Glenn, I don't know what your dad said, but I believe we can fix this if he just talks to me." "I don't think so, Mom. Anyway, I don't know where he is. If you can't reach him, I'm sure his phone is off." "Well, if you hear from him, please tell him to call me." "Okay, Mom, but I won't beg him. Thank you, Glenn. I love you." He ended the call without saying goodbye. Next, I called Rachel. "Hi, sweetheart. How are you?" I asked, trying to keep it cheerful. "I'm fine, Mom. How are you?" she answered, also keeping it light. I wondered why. "Have you heard from your dad?" I asked. "Yeah, he called me earlier. Honestly, Mom, I expected to get that call a year ago after I left for college." "Why would you say that? Mom, you and Dad barely talked the last year I was home. I didn't see you two even touch each other or kiss. I think you both need to find someone who makes you happy." Rachel, my youngest, always spoke her mind. I worried for the guy who ends up with her. She tells it as it is, but maybe she will find someone who helps her grow. "Well, if you could ask him to please talk to me, I would really appreciate it. I think he will listen to you." I said she is his little girl, so he should listen. "Okay, Mom, I hope he calls you." "Me too, Rachel. Me too," I said as we finished our call. My son was angry with me, and my youngest daughter didn't care much about the divorce. Wow, I really messed up. I stayed awake until almost midnight waiting for calls from my kids or my husband, but nothing. I decided to go to bed alone. I stayed in Julia's room, which felt a bit comforting since she wanted us to go to counseling. Kirti, I was exhausted. Truthfully, I hadn't slept much in the last 2 weeks, and now I was really tired. The excitement of the day was gone. I went to sleep and didn't wake up until 11 o'clock Sunday morning. I showered but didn't shave. When I sat down to eat some leftover pizza, I thought I should call the kids to let them know I was okay. They were all happy to hear from me and said that Sue had called and asked me to call her. I decided today would be the day. We would talk, and unless something big happened, I would move forward with the divorce. I dialed the number I knew so well, and she picked up after the first ring. "Oh, Kurt, thank you for calling. First, I want to say I'm sorry. The kids asked me to call you." "What do you want?" I asked without much feeling. "I want to talk. Can we do that?" "We are talking now, so just talk." "No, I mean face-to-face. Will you come home so we can sit down and talk about this together?" I thought for a moment and then said, "Okay, I need to grab a few things I left anyway. That should tell her how I felt about the whole thing." "Can you come over at 2 o'clock?" she asked. Not paying attention to my last comment? Sure. Will your friend be gone by then? I said, hoping that would sting a little. Oh, Kurt, I'm sorry, there's no one else. I'll see you at 2 o'clock. Then I hung up. I wondered if someone was there now or had been there before. Maybe I should check it out myself. I got in my car and drove past her house. No cars were in the driveway, but maybe he parked in the garage. I parked down the street and watched for about 30 minutes. No one came or went. Well, I guess she wasn't lying about that. I should probably shave before I go back. I said to myself. I drove back to the hotel, shaved, put on nicer clothes, and even added a little aftershave. I wanted her to see what she was giving up. So he finally called. He was brief and cold, even made a mean comment. But he was coming over at 2 o'clock. I had to get ready. First, I would make a great dinner so we could talk as we ate. Then I would dress nicely so he could see what he was missing. The meeting I parked on the street, it set the mood from the start. I don't even want to park in my own driveway. That's how it felt. Why is he parking on the street? The driveway is clear. He could even park in the garage, I thought. As he walked up the driveway, I noticed he looked nice for a day off. He usually wears a t-shirt and jeans on his days off. I needed to greet him properly and thank him for coming. The door opened, and there I stood with a worried, subtle smile on my face. I looked nice in my outfit. Is that for me, or does he have a date tonight? I wondered. When I opened the door, I smiled at Kurt, but I knew it probably looked forced. I was happy to see him, but I was nervous about what would happen. Why did you park on the street? Oh, and thank you for coming, I said, feeling uneasy. You're welcome, and I wasn't sure if someone was in the garage and might need to leave, he replied. I saw a flash of anger on his face. Good. My comment hit home. This meeting was not going to be easy. Kurt upset me with that remark, but I kept quiet. I wanted this meeting to go smoothly so we could talk about our future. If I had to handle a little boyish behavior from my husband, then I would. Come in. I made dinner and it's all ready. Please have a seat at the table. I came to talk, not to eat. Can't we do both? We can have a nice meal while we talk about our problems. No, I don't want to eat. I need to be somewhere as soon as we're finished here, I said. I was lying, but she didn't need to know that. Is that why he's dressed up? I wondered. In one day, he's already planning to meet someone else. Oh, I said. Can't you just call and cancel your date? Who are you meeting anyway? As soon as I said it, I wished I hadn't. I don't have a date. I don't date when I'm married, unlike someone I know, she replied. That made me angry. Oh no, I thought. I've messed up this meeting. Why did I say that? I'm sorry, Kurt. I let my feelings get the best of me. Did your feelings get the best of you on Friday night and Saturday too? I asked. Oh God, I'm so sorry, Kurt. Please forgive me. I don't think that will ever happen, Sue. When I said this, I saw her shoulders droop. She might think she has lost, but I'm just beginning. Well, you asked me to come here to talk, so let's talk. I walked into the living room and sat down in the armchair while she sat on the sofa across from me. Okay, Kurt. I really am sorry, she said. Are you sorry for what you did, or just sorry you got caught? I sat there for a minute thinking about it. If I'm honest, I was sorry I got caught. If I hadn't, I would still be there until tonight. But I did feel bad for hurting him now that he knew. I'm sorry that I hurt you, I finally said. That doesn't answer my question, Sue. I could see she was struggling to find the right words. Kurt, I just don't know, she said softly. Sue, you need to answer all my questions honestly. If you lie to me, we will never be able to have a relationship again. I will, Kurt. Ask me anything. Did you feel any guilt when you were driving to Sioux Falls on Friday night? Yes, I answered truthfully. Where did you meet him? How did it come to this? He's a salesman who visits our company once a week. He was always nice to me. So how did you go from seeing him for just a few minutes each week to spending a whole weekend together? When Kurt said the word together, I flinched. That's all it was, just a weekend. I liked David, but I knew it wouldn't last. I am married after all, at least for now. He asked me to lunch and I said yes. What harm could it do? You tell me what harm could it do? Nothing if it was just one lunch, but we started going out for lunch every week when he came to make sales calls. So how long has this been happening? It's been a few months. You didn't think there was anything wrong with that? He was just really nice and always complimented me on my looks. He made me feel young again. So all it takes is some nice words to get your attention. Just compliments. I had to throw that in since it had been over 3 years since we had been close. No, Kurt. We just got comfortable with each other. Then he invited me to a bed and breakfast this weekend. Was he the first guy? I doubt it because I'm sure other guys have been nice to you. When did it happen? I've never done anything like that before him, Kurt. You have to believe me. No, I don't have to believe you. I raised my voice. When was it and with whom? Friday night with David, she lied. You don't spend hours in a hotel room just talking. I stood up saying nothing and walked toward the door. What's he doing? I wondered as he got up and headed for the door. Kurt, don't leave. We need to talk. I followed him. He turned to look at me, his face showing sadness and anger. Sue, you lied to me. I said if we wanted to have a relationship, you had to be honest. You lied, Sue. Oh, no, I did lie, I thought. How did he know about our time together a couple of weeks ago? I must be dumb. Of course, he knew. How else could he have found out? I sank back on the couch, my head and my hands crying. I'm sorry, Kurt. I lied. We had been together once before, about 2 weeks ago. I took an afternoon off and we went to a hotel. How did he find out? He had worked late that night. I even made his favorite meal, but it got cold waiting for him. Oh no, he did know. He came home late on purpose and I yelled at him for not calling, I thought. So what happens now, Kurt? I asked. You get a lawyer and we get a divorce. So you're going to end a good marriage over this? Yep. 23 years of a good marriage gone. It's been 26 years, Kurt. He didn't even remember how long we'd been married. True, but only 23 years of a good marriage. The last 3 have been a waste. Now I was angry. He thought the last 3 years were a waste. I shouted, forget you, Kurt. Not for the last 3 years. What does he mean, I thought. Then I said, Not for the last 3 years? What do you mean? I mean, we haven't been close in over 3 years. So this is about that? Is it about intimacy? Yes, you can give it to someone else, but you cut me off for over 3 years. How many talks and arguments have we had about this? I thought about it. We hadn't been intimate or even close in over 3 years. I didn't want or need it when menopause started. I asked. I tried to get you interested and even begged, but you told me to deal with it. Well, I guess this is how I'm going to deal with it. I'm really sorry. It took me so long. So now you're giving up on our marriage? Rachel saw it before I did. She told me just yesterday that I should do what makes me happy. I can't stay in a loveless marriage just because it's what we're meant to do, I said. So you're giving up on us? What do you think we should do, Sue? Julia thinks we should go to a counselor. I think that's a good idea. And then what, Sue? So we can be happy together until we die. I remember those vows. I also remember forsaking all others. Did you forget that? Or does that not matter? To me, when you break your vows, everything else doesn't mean anything. But I still love you, Kurt. You have a funny way of showing it. I said to her, goodbye, Sue. Get a lawyer. Then I walked out the door. Sue, he walked out the door. All my plans for a nice dinner and talk were gone. I wanted to explain myself to show him my side, how I needed to feel loved by someone younger than me. I'm an old woman now, no longer able to have kids, moving slowly to the end of my life. I sat and cried for what felt like an hour. When my phone rang, it pulled me back to reality. I looked at the phone. It was Julia. Mom, are you okay? Did Dad call you? I asked him to. Yeah, Julia, he called. I asked him to come over. He came. We argued, and then he left. Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. Did he tell you why he's getting a divorce? I already knew why, Julia. He just made it very clear. So why? I had to admit the truth. Everyone would find out sooner or later, so there was no point in hiding it. I cheated on him, I said quietly. What? I was foolish, and he found out. He even had someone serve me papers while I was with the guy. I feel so ashamed. I never wanted this to happen. Why was I so stupid? Soon I'll be almost 50 and divorced. I started crying again. I didn't think I had any tears left. Oh, Mom, how could you? I knew you and Dad weren't happy, but how could you do this? I'm sorry, Julia. I know we fought a lot, but I still love him, and now he's gone. Maybe he just needs time. You both can talk it out with a counselor. I wish I could believe that, but I don't have much hope. Your dad is proud and stubborn. I don't think he'll forgive me. So because of his pride, he'll give up on your marriage. I asked him that too, but honestly, it hasn't been much of a marriage for the last few years, and it's all my fault. I started crying harder and dropped the phone. Mom! 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 Julia shouted. I picked up the phone. Sorry, honey. I dropped the phone. Mom, I'm coming home. Maybe I can help get Dad to talk it out with us. Honey, I think that would be a waste of time. I don't care. I'm coming home. I'll see you in a few hours. My daughter was coming home from college to talk her dad into taking back his wife. What had I done? My selfish wish to feel wanted by another man had caused my life to fall apart, and now my family was suffering. Kirtai just got off the phone with Julia. She's coming home to save our marriage, but honestly, it feels too late to save. After 3 years of dealing with Sue's lies, I'm done. Knowing she gave another man what she never gave me was definitely the last straw. I'm not a big drinker, but I headed to the nearest bar. I turned my phone off and walked out of my hotel room. Let them try to find me. Julia arrived and tried to call Kurt, but it went straight to voicemail. He had his phone off. It was getting late, and I decided to go to bed. I would call in sick to work tomorrow. I could try to talk to Kurt then. Kurtai spent a couple of hours nursing a few beers. I wasn't drunk, but I felt okay. I set my phone alarm for 6 and then listened to my messages. There were a couple from my wife, the usual, I'm sorry. Nonsense. Then there were 2 from Julia asking if we could meet tomorrow after I got home from work. But I wasn't going to work. I had things to take care of. I needed to see my lawyer and handle some banking. For now, I just wanted to sleep and hope I didn't wake up with a hangover. Sue. I didn't sleep much, but I finally did fall asleep. I was so tired from everything that happened over the weekend. I woke up to the smell of bacon. Kurt always made breakfast on weekends. Was it all a dream or a nightmare? Could it be Saturday morning and I was still happily married? Then Julia called from downstairs and I knew the nightmare was real. I got up and called work to say I was sick. There was no way I could go in today. I had plans to make with Julia to win Kurt back. I also needed to get my 2 other kids on my side and Janie, too. Kurt really liked her and thought she'd be good for Glenn. The breakfast was good. I hadn't eaten much yesterday. The meal I made for Kurt went into the fridge as leftovers. I guess Julia and I would share those. I called Rachel and Glenn and left messages for them to call me back. Rachel was probably in class and Glenn was at work. I called Janie, who worked retail and had Mondays off. Hi, Janie, this is Glenn's mom. Do you have time to talk? Sure, Mom. She had been calling me that for the last year. It felt nice to know she liked me and felt comfortable enough to say it. How is Glenn? He's upset. He won't even talk about it. Janie, could you ask him to call me? I need to discuss his dad. What's going on, Mom? I did something that upset his dad, and now he wants to end our marriage. Oh, no. I can't believe it. You've been married for more than 25 years. It's hard to understand why you can't fix things. Love should help you get through anything. I think we can if Kurt would just give us a chance. That's why I'm calling. Can you talk to Kurt? Tell him how much you would hate for us to get a divorce? Of course, Mom. I'd do anything for you. I want to have kids one day, and I'd like you 2 to be together. Thanks, Janie. I'd like that too. Kurtie woke up and called into work. Then I took a shower and got dressed. I felt okay, all things considered. My head hurt a little, but I could handle it. First, I needed to get breakfast. After that, I had to call my lawyer to set up a meeting. When I reached him, he said he could see me later that morning. After the meeting, I could visit the bank. After that, I needed to find an apartment. At the bank, I opened a new account, paid off my credit card, and split our money, putting half into my account. After leaving the bank, I turned on my phone to look for apartment listings. As I turned it on, I saw I had voicemails and messages. Julia had called and texted me. She wanted to meet. I was a bit angry that Sue had her come home from college to help her. I called Julia. Hey, Jules, you shouldn't have skipped school. I came home to see if I could help you and Mom. This is between your mother and me. You don't need to be involved. Dad, it's our family. I want to help save it. I thought about what she said and replied, we will still be a family, even if your mother and I aren't together. That won't change. Dad, can we sit down and talk? I want to hear your side. I already heard Mom's. Okay, let's have lunch. How about Applebee's at 12.30? I should be done with my lawyer by then. Sure, Dad, see you there. Just you, Jules, not your mother. I knew Sue might show up if I didn't make this clear. Okay, Dad. She sounded a bit sad. After meeting with the lawyer, I felt good. He said that with the photo Tom took when he served Sue, getting a divorce on grounds of cheating should be easy. I hadn't seen the photo and I didn't want to. As long as it helped me get a fair split, I didn't care what it showed. I asked the lawyer some questions about how things would go, and he said it depends on Sue and her lawyer now. They can choose how much they will fight it. Then the judge will make the final decision. At 12:30, I met Julia for lunch. We sat down and looked at the menu. Then she asked me, "Dad, do you still love her?" I thought for a moment. I had been considering this for days. I don't think I do. I still care a little, but I've been thinking about this a lot, and I keep coming to the same answer. No. So much has happened that has pushed us apart. Sure, I still care about her. We spent many years together and raised kids, but I think the love is gone now. I watched her face change from hope to sadness. Jules, I will always love you and your brother and sister. That will never change. I just don't think we can fix this. She sat quietly. Jules, you and your siblings are all grown up and going to college. Soon you will get married and have your own family. We will still be your parents, just living in different homes. I thought you would stay together forever. Jules, you've been in a few relationships. What do you think makes a good relationship or marriage? She took a deep breath, thought for a moment, and said, Well, love is the first thing. I just said I don't think I love her anymore. What else? What else? I don't know. What else? I asked. Commitment, she replied. What do you mean by that? I asked. Staying together when things get hard. It's been tough for over 3 years, Jules. How long should I keep this up? I don't know. Okay. What else? Patience and forgiveness. I've been patient, but I don't think I can forgive her for what she did. It was just one time. I don't know. What else she did? It was just one time, Dad. No, it wasn't just one time. It might have been one guy, but there was at least one time and a weekend together. She said it was just one time. You should talk to your mom about that. What I say won't change your mind. What else do you think makes a good marriage? Honesty. Do you think your mom was honest with me? No, so I guess trust is important too. I'm sure you don't trust her anymore. No, I don't think I can. What else? I asked. Good communication. Jules. Before you left for college, what do you remember about our communication? You were either fighting or hardly talking. Is there anything else that makes a good marriage? Selflessness. Being willing to do things for your partner even if you don't want to. That's a good point. What do you think you missed? Well, of course, physical closeness. That's obvious, though. I'd like you to ask your mom about that and see what she says. Julia looked at me with a confused look. Just then, the waitress brought our food. Jules, let's enjoy our meal and change the topic. Let's have a nice lunch together. Okay, she said. I could tell she was still thinking about what we talked about. By the end of the meal, we were chatting about school, friends, politics, almost everything else. But the big problem was still there. Jules. Tell your mom to get a lawyer. It's the only way we'll figure this out. I will, Dad, she said with a sigh. That afternoon, I went to Central Park. I sat on a bench watching people and enjoying the nice fall day. While I was there, I thought about my talk with Julia. She really understood many of the reasons I was getting a divorce from Sue. I just hoped it would be over quickly, but I wasn't sure. Tuesday came and I was back at work. I have to admit I wasn't really focused on my job. I was thinking about Sue, of course, but also about the guy who was trying to take advantage of a married woman. He needed to face some consequences. I wanted to find out more about this David Perkins. All I knew was he was a divorced man, 38 years old with 2 kids, and worked at Heartland Paper. So I called a private investigator. I shared everything I had on him, paid a little up front with my debit card, and asked him to let me know if he found anything important. I know it sounds dumb to spend money like this, but I needed information. If Sue kept seeing him, it would make my situation even worse. Around 3 p.m., my friend and co-worker Eric Van Dorn peeked into my office and asked, "Are you free for lunch tomorrow?" "If you're paying, I'm free all week," I joked. "Nope, we're going Dutch because you know the saying. Yeah, if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. You've said it so many times, I swear I hear it in my sleep." "I'll come by tomorrow around noon then, okay?" he said. "Sure," I replied. Eric is our plant purchasing executive. It's a fancy title for someone who buys supplies. He takes his work seriously. If I didn't know better, I'd think he enjoyed shopping more than anyone else, especially when it's with someone else's money. Plus, being Dutch, he always finds great deals. I wouldn't call him cheap, but I won't say anything bad about my friends. At night, I sat in my hotel room still unsure about which apartment I should rent. I didn't feel rushed, but I wanted to find a nice one since I might be there for a while. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but I answered anyway. "Hi, Dad. It was Janie." She wasn't my real daughter, but after Glenn and she had been dating for a year, I asked her to call me Dad. "Hi, Janie, what do you need?" "You can forgive your wife," she said bluntly. "It's not happening anytime soon, Janie," I replied firmly. "Why not? Don't you love her? Isn't she your wife? Doesn't she deserve your forgiveness?" "Janie, this isn't a conversation we should be having," I said, trying to be serious. "I really believe love can help you get through this, so I think you can work it out," she said. "Janie, I don't want to be rude, but Sue and my problems are up to us to solve or not solve. Please don't get involved." She stammered. "Goodbye, Janie." I hung up feeling angry. Sue tried to make my friends pressure me into taking her back. She should feel guilty, not me. I felt too excited to sleep, so I went to the exercise room to run on the treadmill. Running helps me release extra energy, and it gives me time to think. I looked back on my life and all the good times I had. I would keep those memories no matter what happened with my marriage. If I took her back, what would the future be like? I couldn't stop thinking about how I could never forget what she did to me. I would always feel angry over the 3 years before in the affair. What kind of marriage would that be? Would I always want to pay her back for her actions? If I stayed married, would it just be like the last 3 years? No, thank you. I glanced at the treadmill. I had run 4 miles and didn't even realize it. Maybe I should get mad more often before running. It might help me run a marathon. I stepped off the treadmill and wiped my face as I headed back to my room. I would sleep well tonight since I was so tired. Sue. I went back to work today. I was distracted, but still got my job done. I was happy to come home, though it felt so empty. Julia had gone back to school early in the morning. To keep my mind busy, I did laundry. As I was carrying a basket of dry clothes to our bedroom, my phone rang. I put the clothes down and checked my phone. It was Janie. "Mom, I think Kurt is mad at me. I told him he should forgive you, and he got upset really fast. He's a stubborn guy." "All men can be Janie," I said. "Well, I think he's being silly. You guys can get through this." "I hope so," I replied. "Sorry, Mom. Glenn just walked in. I'll talk to you later." I felt bad for getting Janie involved. I didn't expect Kurt to be rude to her. I guess I was wrong. I didn't know Kurt as well as I thought. Certain Wednesday, I had lunch with Eric. As soon as we sat down, he said, "What's going on with you, Kurt?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "You haven't been yourself for at least 2 weeks, and then you called in sick on Monday. That's not like you. You never miss work unless it's for vacation." "I didn't think it was that obvious," I said. "It's not to most people, but it is to me." I was quiet for a moment and then said, "I'm getting a divorce." "What? Really? You've been married forever, and forever just 26 years we won't make it to 27. What happened?" "It's been coming for a while, but the last straw was when she had an affair." When I said that, the restaurant seemed to go quiet. Then Eric replied, "Man, I'm sorry, Kurt. Yeah, me too. Do you think you'll work it out?" "No way. I'm really angry about what she did to me for the last 3 years. I'll never get past it." 3 years? She's been seeing someone for 3 years? "No, but she stopped talking to me 3 years ago. No amount of love, joking, or even begging could change that. She told me to just accept it. Well, now I'm accepting it. Wow, that's rough." "Yeah, life can be rough, but I plan to change that," I said firmly. "So who's the guy?" "His name is David Perkins. He's a slick salesman from Heartland Paper in Sioux Falls. He brings supplies to Mid-States every week. She's been having lunch with him for at least 3 months. What a jerk. I bet he knew she was married." He replied, "Yeah, can we talk about something else? I want to enjoy lunch, and this is making my stomach hurt." "Sure." The rest of the lunch went smoothly, and we didn't talk about my issues. "Sue, it was just another day at work. I was going through my tasks when my boss called me into his office. 'Sue, what's wrong? You don't seem like yourself.' 'I have some problems at home.' 'I'd rather not discuss it,' I replied. 'Don't let it affect your work. If you need some time off to handle things, just let me know.' 'No, I'll be fine. I'm sorry. I will focus on my job.' I said, 'Okay, thanks.' 'I need the Sue I can count on,' he said. 'You have her,' I assured him. The rest of the day, I tried to focus on work. It helped me forget my problems, at least for a little while. After work, I came home to an empty house. On Thursday at work, I kept an eye on the clock. David usually showed up around 11:30. What would I say to him? What would he say back? When he walked in, I tensed up. He looked at me with a blank expression. He went to see my boss, as he usually did, to check on the weekly order and future needs. After he came out and closed the door, he looked at me and said, "I can't believe you just left." "Shh." Not so loud, I whispered. Why? You don't want anyone to know? Have you made up with your husband? Let's not talk about this here. I'll meet you for lunch and we can discuss it then, I said quietly. I didn't want my boss or anyone else getting wrong ideas. I would meet him for lunch and tell him it was all a mistake and that we should never have gone there. Okay, I'll see you at our usual place. You're driving yourself, right? Yes, I'll be there. At noon, I left and drove to Minerva's. He was sitting in a booth when I arrived. As I walked up, he smiled and said, "Have a seat." I sat down and said, "David, I'm sorry about last weekend. It was a mistake and I shouldn't have agreed to it." "So you didn't enjoy it? You didn't have a good time?" "Yes, it was nice," I admitted, thinking about the attention he had given me. "So what do you feel bad about?" "It was a mistake. I'm a married woman, and this could ruin my marriage." "You said your marriage felt more like being roommates. It doesn't seem like it cost you much." "Well, I have to try to fix that. So I'm left with nothing after a weekend that cost me over $400, and you're just sorry?" I looked at him. I had never seen this side of him before. What did he want from me for the room? "Don't look at me like that," he said. "You know why we went there. I was hoping for a whole weekend with you, and I thought you wanted to spend time with me, not just be with me like that," I said as I stood up and started to leave. "Stupid woman," he shouted. "I hope he does divorce you." I turned and stared at him for a moment, then walked out. "Men, all they want to do is use us," I said as I headed to my car. I drove back to work, tried to compose myself, and finished the day focusing hard on my job. "Kurt, I got a call from the private investigator. He told me that my wife had lunch with the guy, but they ended up arguing, and she left. It didn't really change anything, but it made me feel a bit better. Maybe she did regret her choice." Later that evening, I finally got a call from Rachel. "Hi, Mom. You called?" "Yes. Why did you take so long to call me back? Julia told me why Dad is divorcing you." "How could you? I know you were sad, but why not just ask for a divorce?" "I wasn't sad. I don't want a divorce." "That's a strange way to keep your family together." "I feel bad for Dad. I hope whatever you did was worth it." "Oh God, Rachel, you need to help me fix this. I know he'll listen to you." "No, Mom, you're on your own." I was truly on my own, sitting in an empty house trying to think of how to fix my mistake. Each day felt more hopeless. Kurt, I spent the weekend looking for a new apartment. On Sunday afternoon, I found one that was just right for me. It had 2 bedrooms in case any of the kids wanted to stay over. Sumi weekend was spent walking around the house, remembering all the happy times we shared, all the Christmases, Easters, birthdays, and Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was only a couple of weeks away. Would we all be together? Would there be anything to feel thankful for? I decided I would make sure all the kids would come over. I called them all. Rachel and Julia said they would invite Dad to our Thanksgiving dinner for the family. Glenn was a bit harder to convince, but with Janie encouraging him, he finally said yes. Now I had to put together a meal that would remind everyone of the good times. Curtain Tuesday, I received an invitation in the mail. It was from Sue asking me to Thanksgiving dinner at our house. I threw the invitation away. The only thing I felt thankful for this year was my decision to end the fake happiness. Over the next 2 weeks, I moved into my new place. I found some furniture online and set up a nice home for myself. I also got a half-hearted call from Rachel saying her mom asked her to invite me to Thanksgiving. She understood when I said no. Glenn understood too when I gave him the same answer. Julia begged me to think it over again, and even though it was tough to say no to her, I did. Luckily, Janie did not call me. I guess she understood my message from last time. On the Monday before Thanksgiving, I walked to my car after work and saw Sue's big SUV parked next to mine. As I got closer, she stepped out. She looked nice and well put together. The confrontation part 2. "Kurt," I said with my best smile and kindest voice. "What do you want, Sue?" I replied shortly. "I never got your answer about the invitation to Thanksgiving dinner. I really hope you will come. The kids would love it too." She was hoping I couldn't say no, especially because of the kids. "That's because I threw it away the same day I got it," I told her, hoping she understood. "Well, I hope you have thought it over and will change your mind for the family." She was trying to keep the focus on the kids. "I already told the kids no when they called me. They know I'm not coming. Why don't you invite your guy instead? I'm sure he's not going to his ex-wife since she remarried, but maybe he's off to see one of his other women. You do know he has 3 other women, right? 2 of them are married, too. He must like being with married women. What was she telling me? David had 3 other women besides me, and 2 of them were married. He's not my guy. I barely talked to him since that weekend. I could see on her face that she didn't know about the other women. Spending money on the private investigator was worth it just to see her reaction. Yeah, I heard you had a fight when you met him for lunch that next week. By your face, I guess he didn't tell you about his other women. Oh, Kurt, can't we just move past this? I promise I won't do anything like that again. Move past this so I can come home to a cold, lifeless marriage. No way. If you want something more, I can do that for you. I can use a special lotion and we can be together whenever you want. She was trying to get me to change my mind. Sue, I can't be with you because I don't love you anymore. I wouldn't be with you, not at all because I'm worried about catching something. You probably weren't worried about getting pregnant, so you didn't make him wear protection. That means he might have given you an infection. You should really see a doctor for your own good. Oh no, I thought. I hadn't had him wear protection, and Kurt was right. I knew I couldn't get pregnant, but I really should see a doctor. I made a note to myself. I was sure Kurt was right. He probably had other women. I felt so foolish. You hadn't thought about that, had you, Sue? I said to her. It's over. If you haven't already, get a lawyer and start the papers, I told her. I'll get a lawyer and I'm going to fight this, Kurt. I believe we can get back to how we used to be. You'll see. At least she's finally getting a lawyer. It's about time. I got in my car and drove away while she stood there asking me to talk. Sue, he drove off and we didn't fix anything. I just wish we could talk this over. I got into my Yukon and cried all the way home. On Tuesday at work, I noticed my boss seemed stressed. He said he had a meeting with the president and vice president and it didn't sound good. After the meeting, he came to me and said there would be a required meeting that afternoon for everyone in the plant. At 2 o'clock, we all gathered in the lunchroom. The president was there and started by saying we would have Friday off and also Thanksgiving. Many people smiled at that news, a 4-day weekend. Then he gave us the bad news. In fact, he said, you will have every Friday off for a while. We lost an important account, so we will cut everyone down to 32 hours a week from Monday to Thursday. You will keep your benefits, but we'll need to save money until we find new clients. The happy mood changed to sadness quickly. When I got back to my desk, my boss asked if I knew what was happening at 3M. Not that I know of. Did we lose that account? I replied. Yes, and it was a big part of our sales. We need to win it back, find new accounts, or we'll have to let some people go. For now, all hourly workers will work only 32 hours. I couldn't believe it. The heart did this out of anger. Many families would be hurt by this, and it's just a month before Christmas. I can't believe he would do this. As the end of the day neared, I overheard 2 women talking. It's all Sue's fault. She just had to get involved with someone new, and now we're paying for it. What? I thought. How does anyone know about that? Is everyone blaming me? As I walked through the office, people looked at me coldly. At the end of the day, I hurried to my Yukon, but I still heard some coworkers calling me mean names. I had to talk to Kurt. We needed the 3M account back. I drove to Kurt's workplace and parked by his car, waiting for him to come out. Kurt, I walked out of work and saw Sue's Yukon parked by my car again. I knew she would try to talk me into coming to Thanksgiving dinner again. That wasn't going to happen. I didn't want to be near her. As I walked to my car, Sue got out of the Yukon. I could tell she was angry. Now what? I thought. You spiteful jerk. I was taken aback. What? Don't give me that innocent look. You're being unfair and ruining Christmas for many people just because you're mad at me. What are you talking about? I'm not ruining anyone's Christmas. The kids can spend time with each of us separately. I'm not talking about our kids. I'm upset about what you did to my coworkers' families. How could you? I don't know what you're talking about. We were yelling at each other now, and people walking by started to look at us. So you didn't get your company to stop working with my company just to hurt me? They are cutting everyone's work hours down to 32 a week. That's really going to make it tough for many families during the holidays, not to mention paying bills. I was shocked by her words. I hadn't done anything. I don't decide who we buy from. When I realized it must have been Eric. Wow, and he hadn't even told me. I didn't do it, but maybe your choices have unexpected results. You should have thought more about how your actions would affect others. "Oh, screw you!" she yelled. "No, thank you, not anymore," I yelled back. I got in my car and drove away. She was still mad, but I had a little smile on my face. I felt a bit guilty for her coworkers, but maybe this was what she needed to see, that her actions had consequences. "Sue?" He drove away again. I was so angry at him. Maybe it is for the best that we are getting a divorce. How was I going to fix this? People were already talking about me at work. I'm sure tomorrow will be worse. I drove home and walked into my empty house. I was starting to get used to it being quiet. I wished the kids were home to fill the space with life. I had to make Thanksgiving special even without their father. I started baking pies. It made me forget my problems for a little while. I loved baking and cooking. It was something I did for my family, and it brought me joy. I couldn't wait to have them home sharing a big meal. I hoped Kurt would miss it, too. Kurt. I drove to my apartment. It felt empty and still didn't have much furniture. I kept thinking about what Sue had said. I knew Eric was behind what happened. I would ask him tomorrow, but I had no doubts. As I sat eating my microwave dinner, I thought about what I would do for Thanksgiving. I could join other lonely people at the pizza ranch. It wouldn't be a homemade meal, but it would still be good. On Wednesday at work, I looked for Eric right away. "Hey, Eric, my wife came by after work yesterday." "Yeah, I heard you had a fight in the parking lot. What happened? I think you already know." "Did you pull our business from Mid-States Printing?" "Yeah, I got a quote from Quality Quick Print, and they will save us about 2% on printing costs. I also switched our paper and cardstock supplier to Kohl's Paper out of Fargo, which will save us 3%. David Perkins is going to feel the pressure now that we're not using Heartland anymore," said Eric. "Wow, I didn't know you could be so tough." "I'll make sure to stay on your good side," I replied. "I take care of my friends. If someone hurts them, I make sure to get back at the person who hurt them." "What about everyone at Mid-States? My wife said they are cutting hours." "I bet Quality is looking for experienced workers," he said. "So what else did you do?" I asked. "That's all, and I think that's enough," he added. I was surprised to learn that Eric had such influence. They say words can be stronger than weapons. His words really hit hard against two people who had hurt me. I almost felt bad when I sent letters with pictures to the husbands of the two married women David was involved with, almost. I just had to wait and see what would happen next. Sue. I was called to my boss's office just minutes after arriving at work. "Oh no," I thought. "Sue, I've heard you might know why we lost the 3M account," he said. I looked down at my hands. Just a month ago, these hands were touching my lover. Yes, I knew why. It was all my fault. I looked up and said, "My husband says he doesn't know anything about it, but I'm sure it's a payback for what I did." "What did you do?" he asked. I could tell by his face he already knew. "I was unfaithful with David Perkins." "Why would you do that?" he questioned. "I'm not getting any younger." When a handsome younger man showed interest in me, it made me feel wanted. "Well, that desire may have hurt us all," he replied. "I'm really sorry. I messed up my life and now others are paying for my mistake." I realized I had said sorry a lot lately, probably more than ever before. Word has spread around. "You're going to face a lot of criticism," he warned. "I know I've already heard some of it," I told him. "You've been with me for almost 15 years, and I know your work. I don't agree with what you've done, but I won't punish you for it. However, I can't stop others from speaking their minds. I won't allow abuse, though. That's where I draw the line. Thank you." "I'll do my best to fix this," I promised. "That would help a lot in earning your forgiveness," he said. "Thank you. At least I was keeping my job for now." As I walked to my desk, I felt people staring at me with disapproval. I worked harder than I had in years. I wanted to show my boss that I was valuable. Around 11 o'clock, I received a call. It was David. "I can't believe you did this," he shouted when I answered. "Did what?" I asked, confused. "You got your husband to take revenge on me." "What are you talking about?" I replied. "Your husband works at 3M, right?" "Yes, but what does that have to do with anything? His company just dropped us as a supplier. That really hurt my sales and my pay. They stopped using us as their printer, too, so it's not just you who is suffering. They cut all our work hours down to 32 a week. I heard you might drop us, too. I wish I had never met you. It's your fault. You keep flirting with married women. I heard I'm not the only one. You have at least 3 other women you're seeing, and 2 of them are married. Who told you that? My husband. So he's the one sending letters to their husbands. He blames me because his woman can't be loyal. All of you women are so mean. I'm sorry I ever met you. If I keep my job, they will probably give me the worst area to work in. Kurt, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I don't have much to feel thankful for. After 26 years of marriage, things have fallen apart. I called all the kids and invited them to come over, making them promise not to tell their mom my new address. I wonder if they will visit. Sue. I woke up early today. I haven't been sleeping well, and I need to get the turkey in the oven and prepare other dishes. I don't think I'll see Kurt, but I still hope he will come. Maybe he'll feel bad about not being here when the kids are around. Around noon, the kids started showing up. The meal was almost ready. Is Dad coming? Julia asked. I don't think so, honey, but we can hope, I replied. I'm going to call him and invite him again, she said. I knew it was probably pointless. After 26 years, I knew how stubborn he could be. By the way she talked to him, I could tell he was telling her he wasn't coming. All right, let's sit down and enjoy dinner without him, I said. We were halfway through when Julia said, I can't believe he's so stubborn. He should at least come for Thanksgiving. Then we could all talk and maybe make up. That is hurt. His wife let him down, Glenn said while looking at me, and I could tell he was upset with me. It hasn't been a good marriage for at least 3 years. They fought all the time, then just stopped talking, Rachel added. Then looking at me, she said, Sorry, Mom, but it's true. What happened, Mom? Why did you two start fighting? Did you cheat on him too? Glenn asked. That really hit me hard. My kids saw the end of our marriage and thought I had cheated 3 years ago. No, we were arguing about other things. I was loyal up until about a month ago. Why did you do it, Mom? Julia asked. Well, as you said, your dad and I haven't been getting along very well. We felt more like roommates. One day a guy started flirting with me and asked me out for lunch. I thought, what's the harm in that? So I went. We did this every week for a few months. Well, one thing led to another and we ended up together, I said, not wanting to look at them. Now you want him back? Just forget about it and move on, Glenn asked. I know it's not that easy. I wish he could forgive me. I've said I'm sorry many times, I replied. He should forgive you, Janie added. What? Glenn looked at her as if she had said something strange. If he loves her, he should just forgive her, she said. How can you say that? Staying loyal is very important in a good marriage, Glenn argued. Love is important too. You can't have a good relationship just by being loyal, Janie replied. You're right, love is important. But if you love someone, you wouldn't want to be unfaithful, Glenn said back. But love can fix problems. If he really loved her, he'd forgive her, Janie said again. So you think if you cheated on me, I should just forgive you? Glenn pressed. If you loved me, you would, she said. Are you going to cheat on me? Glenn asked with suspicion. I don't plan to, but you can't predict the future, she answered. So you won't promise me that you will never cheat? Glenn asked. I can say I won't, but if everyone kept their promises, we wouldn't have divorces. People would stay true to their wedding vows, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part, she explained. What about forsaking all others? Glenn asked. That too, she replied. You have to love and forgive the people you care about. I could see this was getting too heated, so I said, let's not talk about this right now. We should just be happy we're all healthy and can spend time together. I noticed Glenn looking at Janie differently. It seemed like he was seeing her in a new light. I thought to myself, I hope they will find a way through this. Kurt the kids came by after their time with Sue. I was glad to see them, but there was some tension. I hoped that would go away soon. I didn't bring up their mom at all. He just chatted about school and Glenn's new job. My kids weren't little anymore. They were grown up with their own lives. Time really flies. As they were leaving, Glenn hugged me and said quietly, Dad, I need to talk to you. I'll call you tomorrow. I smiled and acted like I didn't hear him. I wondered what he wanted to talk about. I spent the rest of the day watching football, remembering past Thanksgivings. On Friday, I got the call. Dad? Hey, son, what's up? Dad, I think I need to break up with Janie. What? I exclaimed. Why? You've always liked her since you met. Dad, yesterday at Mom's, we talked about the divorce. I felt sorry to hear that. I had hoped that my problems with Sue wouldn't affect our kids. Just because your mom and I couldn't stay together forever doesn't mean you should lose hope for your own relationship. Dad? Janie keeps saying I should just forgive her. When I asked her about what Mom did, It seemed like it didn't matter much to her. She thinks that if she can forgive, then I should too. I asked her if she would ever cheat on me, and she said, "I don't think so, but I can't see the future." I was surprised by her answer. I know Glenn cares about Janie, and I believe she cares about him too. Is she being realistic, or is she just holding on to the idea that love conquers all? It feels like she thinks it's okay to mess up and that forgiveness is always given just because of love. Son, you and Janie need to sort this out. Consider going for marriage counseling or something. You both need to agree on important things before you get married. You need to know that there are some things you should never do to each other. I don't want to talk about marriage with her until I get that promise. I understand. I said, think about the counseling. It might help. Thanks, Dad. I will. I hung up thinking about what my son was going through, the doubts, the decisions. This was something he had to figure out for himself. But I was worried about Janie's attitude. Would she cheat on Glenn? Would she expect him to just forgive her? What if it was the other way around? What if Glenn cheated on her? Would she keep forgiving him? It's a tricky situation if you don't have clear expectations and commitment to each other. The next week, I decided to talk to a lawyer. I explained my situation to him. I told him I wanted to fight the divorce. He said we could at least get court-ordered counseling for our marriage. As I left his office, I felt better about life and what could happen next. Whether we stayed married or not, I would be able to speak my mind and be heard. Kurt, my lawyer, called. Sue had hired a lawyer too and wanted to try marriage counseling to save our marriage. He said the judge would likely order it anyway, so we might as well do it now. It could help speed up the final divorce process. Sue, I got Kurt to agree to see a marriage counselor. We are meeting today. I hope we can work through our problems and move on. I know it won't be fixed in one session, but maybe with some time we can make it work. Kurt E.I. walked into the counselor's office ready to get this over with. Maybe it would only take a session or two for the counselor to see that our marriage couldn't be saved. The counselor is a woman, so I figure she might be on Sue's side. I just have to sit through this and let her know that our relationship was broken even before the cheating happened. That was just the last straw. The counselor asked me why I wanted a divorce. We have grown apart and I don't think we can fix what has happened, I replied. What do you mean by that? She asked. 1. Trust. I don't think I can trust her again. 2. Communication. We haven't really talked in a long time. 3. Love. I don't feel love for her anymore. 4. Commitment. She put her time and feelings into another man. What do you think caused this? She asked. What started all of this? I think it began when she turned away from my love. She cut off all closeness from me. Sue, do you want to respond? First, I still care for Kurt. I know the last few years were hard. Why is that? She asked. I lost all interest in being close. I didn't need it or want it, Sue said. Was it because of menopause? Yes, I just had no desire at all. Did you talk to your doctor about it? Did she suggest treatment? I didn't want to take any medication, Sue said. Why not? I don't like taking drugs. Did you tell Kurt how you felt? She asked. Yes, but he didn't understand. He only wanted to be close. Kurt, did she share her feelings with you? Yes, I did. I told her there were other ways to be close, not just through sex. Like what? She asked. I would try to turn her on and show her love, but she always shut me down. So I guess this led to fights? Yes, she wouldn't even try, I said. How did that make you feel? She asked. It felt like she didn't love me or want me anymore. If she loved me, I didn't understand why she wouldn't work on things. Sue, you said you love Kurt. Why didn't you try to meet his needs? I just wasn't interested. When he kept trying and even begging, I started to feel angry at him. Why couldn't he see that this wasn't part of our relationship anymore? Sue, being close is a normal part of marriage and a way to show love, she said. It's just sex. Love is more than that, Sue answered. Yes, love is more than just that, but being close is a part of a relationship, the counselor said. Kurt, what were you thinking during all of this? She asked. After months without intimacy, I thought I would stop trying to make it happen and see if she would want it. I hoped that on special occasions like Thanksgiving, she would feel loving and want to be close, but that didn't happen. Then came Christmas. I hoped to get a special gift from her, but that didn't happen. Then New Year's came. I thought we could start fresh, but nothing changed. On Valentine's Day, the day for love, we went out for a nice dinner, just the two of us. But again, nothing happened. Then it was my birthday, and again, nothing. Her birthday came and still nothing. When our anniversary came, we went out for dinner and dancing. Yet again, nothing changed. After that, I felt like I couldn't connect anymore. Our talks became cold and distant. We only talked about chores, doctor's appointments, or plans for the weekend. We felt more like roommates than a couple. "Sue, what do you have to say about that?" she asked. Sue. I didn't know how to respond. Kurt's words made me feel ashamed. He made me seem like I didn't care. I couldn't believe he saw every moment as a chance for something more. Was that really all he thought about? I didn't know. I thought he had come to terms with it. It wasn't a big deal for me, so why should it have mattered to him? I began to understand his feelings. He thought my lack of physical closeness meant that I didn't love him, but that wasn't how I felt. "It didn't mean I stopped loving you," I said, looking at him. "That's not true, Sue," Kurt replied. "You haven't shown me love in years. You gave a younger guy what you wouldn't give me. How is that love? I don't think you hated me, but it feels like you don't care anymore. Now I don't care either. I'll find someone else who makes me happy. She will show me love every day, and we will be close to each other, even on tough days. That's the kind of woman I want as soon as this divorce is done. I want to move on with my life." With that, Kurt stood up and left the office. The counselor and I talked for a while after that, but I wasn't really paying attention. I realized that Kurt didn't want me anymore. He wanted someone else to make him happy, and I had not given him that. I had hurt him deeply. In a way, I had made him feel less of a man. I wouldn't be close to him, but I had been close to another man, someone younger. In life, the young often replaced the old. Kurt had been no fight for me. He had simply been replaced. I went home to my empty house alone with my thoughts. I didn't feel like cooking, so I ordered pizza. As I waited, I replayed the past few years in my mind. I could see it clearly now. Kurt had tried to show me love, but I had turned him away. It wasn't just about being together. It was about feeling close and connected, both in body and heart. The doorbell rang, so I went to answer it. I opened the door to see a delivery driver. He was an older man, not too much older than me, and he looked familiar. "Is this Sue Randolph?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. "I thought it was you. Thank you so much. What do you mean?" I was confused, because you had to get messed up. We all got messed up too, and now I'm stuck with this lousy job to make up for it. "I hope you enjoy your pizza," he said, looking at me strangely. As I closed the door, I looked at the pizza box in my hands. Had he done something to my pizza? I didn't know, but I threw it in the trash anyway. Since my work hours had been cut, I had been getting a lot of angry looks and low whispers from my coworkers. It was becoming very uncomfortable for me. But I thought I deserved it. Kurt, well, that meeting was not what I thought it would be. At least I got to speak my mind. It might lead to many more talks with a counselor. Oh well, I felt a bit better after sharing. I drove to my apartment and sat alone. I would be on my own until the divorce was final. After that, I promised myself to find someone who could make me happy, and who I could make happy too. As I sat there feeling sorry for myself, my phone rang. I thought it was Sue calling to yell at me about the meeting, but when I looked at the screen, it was Glenn. I smiled at the surprising call. "Hey, Glenn, how's it going?" "Hey, Dad," he replied in a flat tone. "What's wrong?" I asked, sensing trouble. "We're done, Dad." Janie and I broke up. "No, that can't be. You love her. We've been fighting since Thanksgiving. She thinks it's silly to expect her to promise not to do something she plans to do. If she won't promise, I can't go into marriage thinking that." Damn, Sue, I thought. You not only ruined our marriage, but also our son's chance at a happy one. I'm sorry, son. I know you care for her. It will take time, but you'll find someone who will love you back completely. Thanks, Dad. I hope you find that person too. Sue. I was sitting and watching TV when I got a call. I thought about letting it go to voicemail, but I was curious. I looked at the screen and saw it was Julia. Hey, Julia, thanks for calling. How are you? I'm okay, Mom. How about you? I've had better days, I said sadly. Well, I hate to bring bad news then, she replied. What is it, Julia? Just tell me. Glenn broke up with Janie. What? Why? She called me a little while ago and told me. He's really worried about her cheating on him. Oh no, I thought to myself, what have I done? He wanted her to promise something, and each would sign a contract that would give everything except their clothes to the other person if they cheated. Oh, God, I said softly. Then I thought he's just like his dad. If Kurt and I were starting out now, he would do the same thing. Like then, nobody really did that. I figured I should be grateful for that. Well, they had a big fight and he broke up with her. She called me crying, asking why he is so stubborn. I didn't know what to say. Maybe he'll calm down and they can fix things, I said with hope. But deep down, I knew my son. He would not change his mind. I give up, I thought. The next day, I called my lawyer. I told him to ask for a 50-50 the split instead of the 70-30s he wanted. I also wanted to change the reason to irreconcilable differences. If Kurt agreed, I would sign right away. I knew fighting would only make things last longer. I hoped he would see this as a fair deal. Kurt, my lawyer, called me with an offer from Sue's lawyer. She said she would stop the counseling sessions and sign the divorce papers if we agreed to change the split to 50-50 the assers and change the reason to irreconcilable differences. I told my lawyer, no way. She can't hide what she did by changing the reason. Remind her lawyer that we have a picture and a court officer willing to testify that she was in a bed and breakfast with another man without clothes. I will agree to the 50-50 the split if she admits to her wrongdoing. He said he would speak to her lawyer and see what could be done. Sue Kurt turned down my offer. His lawyer reminded mine that they have a witness who saw David naked on that bed. How could I forget that? But Kurt did agree to the 50-50 split. I told my lawyer to accept it. I had already decided that after all of this, I would leave this town. St. Paul was nice when we lived there. Maybe I would move back there, or perhaps somewhere warmer. Either way, I wouldn't have to deal with everyone in this town looking down on me anymore. I thought back over the last year and how much had changed. The next day at work, a new salesman from Heartland Paper came in to try to win our business back. I asked him where David was. He's in the hospital for at least another day or two, he said. Why? I asked, trying not to sound too worried. He got beaten up really badly. He looked like he had been hit with a baseball bat. They reassigned me to this area, and they are moving him to central South Dakota when he's well enough to return to work. Do they know who did it? No. He said 2 guys attacked him from behind. He didn't get a good look at them. Wow. I wondered if Kurt had anything to do with that. Maybe it was one of the other husbands, since Kurt had told them. I should call David to see how he is, but that might give the wrong idea. I'm done with him. Kurt? She said yes to the offer. Now we just have to wait for our turn with the judge. Since we both agreed on everything before, it should go quickly. I think about the years we had together and still feel mad about what she did to us. Our family would be so different now. I wonder if we'll ever be able to talk nicely again. Sue, the house felt so empty. I was actually looking forward to selling it and sharing the money. The emptiness made me think too much. I would turn on the TV and watch silly shows, but my thoughts always drifted away. When I said yes to lunch with David, I thought, what could be the harm? Now I understand. Somewhere in America, a woman in her middle years is right now saying yes to lunch with a man who is not her husband. She's wondering, what could be the harm in that? If only she knew. Hey, audience,